Thank you. Well, I am very, very, very grateful to Maria Werlau, the book author, and Juni Villalonga, the Coral Gables Museum curator, for this invitation. As I suspect, this will be a watershed night in terms of understanding the challenges that are being faced by the nations in the Western Hemisphere. Maria, of course, I believe is one of the South Florida greatest research assets, and Juni is a dash of innovation in the city of Coral Gables. The reason for sustaining the thought that the book that Maria is presenting tonight is a watershed in the history of interventions in our hemisphere and the world is based on two facts. First, Maria Werlau's admirable research talent, work discipline, and wise insight into the strategic aims of the hemisphere's master spy, which was Fidel Castro. Second, her work illustrates the shape, content, and direction of occupation in the 21st century. This development, known in the literature as phagocytosis, has not been subject to public scrutiny given its hidden nature and quiet demeanor. Indeed, this development is the process by which a cell uses its plasma membrane to engulf a large particle, giving rise to an internal compartment called the phagosome. Once in place, the phagosome takes over the commanding functions of the particle that is being taken over to become an extension of the invading cell. This is exactly what Cuba has done in Venezuela. The development is brilliantly recorded by Maria Werlau in this book, Cuba's Intervention in Venezuela. This makes this book stand apart from many others written on the subject that lack analytic treatment of this unrecorded political development in our hemisphere's history. Now, as we can see in this presentation, we're going to go to its presentation, she sort of dissects invasions in the 21st century, how they go and how they are. Invasions throughout our history are as follows. First, when Maria was thinking of her book, the question that led Maria's research into the Cuban occupation in Venezuela was, how could a country devoid of natural, economic, and financial resources take over another 3 times as big in terms of population and 10 in terms of territory, with the largest oil reserves in the hemisphere, the most thriving middle class after that of the U.S., and a well-equipped and trained army, mostly educated in the United States? And the answer is, first, all invasions in the past have demanded a lot of preparation and resources on the part of the invading powers. Sparta had to create a float, Hannibal had to organize an army with 1,000 elephants, and Sun Tzu had to mobilize a frightening army. In the 19th and 20th century, logistics, infrastructure, and resources even grew exponentially. From the Napoleonic Wars to the Gulf War, countries had to invest in immense amounts of money in order to be able to occupy the territory of another country. But enter the 21st century, and what do you think is necessary? Well, all you need to invade and conquer in the 21st century is fiber optics. Fiber optic allows a country like Cuba to penetrate Venezuela in a very easy manner. You only invest in a good fiber optic connection, and then you take over the information systems and identification system, the elections, the army, the media, trade through the ownership register, and of course you take over every education. You take over education, and you take over all of civil society as well as all the institutions. Through fiber optics, Cuba leveraged its single strategic asset, which was intelligence, and took over control of Venezuela. And this was possible, it could have never happened without the talent and direction of what we should call the master spy of our hemisphere, Mr. Fidel Castro. And what are the talents that demanded by a master spies? Well, a master spies relies on deceit and trickery, is an expert at both magical and non-magical means of evading detection, and has no attachment to long-term loyalty to anything except himself and power. And they usually are keen observation. They have keen observation skills, are mentally agile and intuitive, masters of disguise and secretive. So, and this was exactly what we had in Castro and in and in Venezuela. We had in Castro this was Castro's. It was Castro's strategy toward Venezuela. The Bay of Peace experience taught Fidel Castro the value of information, and ever since he deployed his power resources into the creation of an intelligence service that would secure his grip on power while exploiting other nations' weaknesses and liabilities. And this is why Maria Werlau and her book stand apart with brilliance and universe of publications on Cuba's hemispheric play. Cuba's intervention in Venezuela dissects the phagocytosis that unfolds from 2002 through our days between Venezuela and Cuba. This is clearly described in the prologue. In the prologue, when she says when in the prologue, when she said it's clearly described in the prologue when she, and I quote, attempting to understand Cuba's role in Venezuela from a physical and numeric presence misses the point, because Cuba did not need to deploy any of its assets except information and intelligence, and this is why it deploys with a clear strategy to take over the country. I believe her work illustrates Maria departs from this understanding of every other analyst when she really touches the nerve of Fidel Castro's strategy toward Venezuela. His aim to control the hemisphere was clearly directed at what would be the central nodule of the nervous system of the whole hemisphere. Because from Venezuela, through oil, through the financial system, and through the changing of all the narrative in Latin America, he could maintain control of South America, which is, of course, the strongest geopolitical unity in our hemisphere outside the United States. Maria tells us very clearly that the takeover that Castro designed had revolved around two pillars: the use of information to subdue the Venezuelan society, and the use of information to strengthen Cuba. The first pillar aims at destroying the middle class ethos, to substitute education for indoctrination, restrict access to foreign exchange, control elections, disperse and penetrate mass media, control access to food and medicines, and subdue the military and open gates to illicit non-state actors into the Venezuelan institutional framework. This is particularly important now because what we are seeing in our hemisphere is the exponential growth of control of non-state illicit actors. For example, if you remember the takeover of Culiacan in Mexico by the drug lords when the life of one of the children of Chapo Guzman was at stake because he was going to be arrested. His operational value was at stake because he was going to be arrested by the authorities. They took over the city, they took over the whole state, and they subdued the military and the police in Mexico. This outgrown of the illicit actor could have never been possible without Cuba's agreement many decades ago to allow the transshipment of drug to the Medellin cartels. So it is important to understand that this model of occupation also has arms and legs outside the country that is being occupied and creates separate and distinct financial sources that are illicit and that can threaten the nation state as we know it. The second pillar increases the cost of any attack to Cuba as it holds the secret of the stabilization of Venezuela and gives Cuba a position in international affairs that would clearly lack in terms of resource basket. In the end, this seems to be the exit strategy devised by a mad narcissist like Fidel Castro to continue waging power in our hemisphere after his death. Thank you, Maria, for bringing us in plain light to all the analysts of the world. Thank you.